Good morning, everyone. Uh, Today we're working on social studies, obviously. You're on the section of your book called The Colonial Life, page 244. You can see on your paper your learning target. You're looking for a few main things, learning about what life was like in Philadelphia back during this time period, the late 1600s, early 1700s, and also the frontier, the land that was not cities that the colonists were moving to more and more. And finally, you're also going to look for the impact on Native Americans. And you're going to notice the textbook does not tell us much information about how life changed for them. Here's the pages, and you've already analyzed this map. Okay, these are the 13 colonies, and you can see some cities that are growing. But you are going to be, as we're reading, looking for information about Benjamin Franklin, Philadelphia, what it was like, what was changing, what was life like in Philadelphia, life on the frontier, and the impact on Native Americans. So, to our reading now. The Colonial Way of Life. Benjamin Franklin grew up when the English colonies were rapidly changing. Before 1700, 8 out of 10 colonists were English or had English parents. So that means almost everyone had family from England. Then in the 1700s, large numbers of people from Germany, Ireland, France, Scotland, and Africa began arriving in the colonies, so a mix of many different countries. By 1750, these newcomers lived throughout the 13 colonies. South Carolina had more Africans than Europeans. Dutch, Swedish, French, English, Jewish, and others lived in New York. So New York was already very diverse. In almost every colony, people settled first along the coastline. As it became crowded, the colonists turned to the unsettled land further inland that they called the frontier. As colonists moved there, they took over more and more of the lands that belonged to the Native Americans. So they took over their land. At the same time, colonial cities were growing larger. By 1775, Philadelphia had become the largest city in the 13 colonies. Benjamin Franklin was one of the people who helped this happen. So, little transition to the next page. You can see it starts now about Benjamin Franklin. Benjamin Franklin, the grandson of an indentured servant, grew up to become famous. Born in 1706 into a large Boston family, Franklin learned at a young age that reading was a key to success. At age 16, he wrote funny stories for his brother's newspaper under the name Mrs. Silent Dogood. So it was his pretend name. He didn't use his real name. The stories were so good that his brother printed them, not knowing that Ben had written them. Franklin the writer. Franklin founded Philadelphia's first newspaper, the Pennsylvania Gazette, in 1729. So he founded, meaning he started it. One of Franklin's greatest successes as a writer was Poor Richard's Almanac. It's in italics because it's a proper noun. It's the name of this almanac. An almanac is a reference book that contains information about the stars and the weather. Franklin added jokes and sayings to his almanac and even to his newspaper. From 1732 to 1757, Franklin's almanac sold more copies than any other book in the colonies except for the Bible. The colonists loved Franklin's sayings. Read some of them on this page. What lessons can we learn from them? So here's some of his sayings that he wrote in the almanac. Early to bed, early to rise, makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. Little strokes fell great oaks like huge trees. Glass, china, reputation are easily cracked and never well mended. An open foe may prove a curse, but a pretended friend is worse. One today is worth 2 tomorrows. Haste makes waste. Beware of little expenses. A small leak will sink a great ship. The sleeping fox catches no poultry. And it shows you what the words mean in the bottom. So they all are like life lessons that people can use. Franklin the scientist. As a scientist, Franklin is best known for his experiments with electricity and his invention of the lightning rod. His other inventions still used today are a wood-burning stove called the Franklin stove and bifocal eyeglasses. Franklin's experiments made him famous in the colonies and in Europe. He received many honors and prizes for them. Next page, we're going to learn about Philadelphia back then. Franklin's Philadelphia. When 17-year-old Franklin first came to Philadelphia in 1723, it was a small city of about 10,000 people. By 1775, it had 35,000. Find this city on the map on page 248. Philadelphia had ethnic and religious diversity. By the end of the 1700s, doctors, lawyers, silversmiths, business owners, and craftspersons from many different backgrounds lived there. Philadelphia was home to the colony's few Roman Catholic churches, so it's a type of religion. A Protestant group, the Moravians, from what is now the Czech Republic, also had a church in Philadelphia. So it's saying there was different churches there. Franklin helps Philadelphia. So I know this is going to be telling me about how he helps the city probably grow. Franklin started the city's first public library and its first hospital. He also started the world's first volunteer fire department. Franklin called it the Union Fire Company. Franklin also played a role in the government. He was Postmaster General and Philadelphia's official printer. The postmaster is an official in charge of a post office. So he was in charge of all the post offices. A university in the city. During much of the 1700s, not everyone could receive an education. Schooling was mainly for the wealthy. African Americans and women could not attend school. Franklin wanted to help more people get an education. He himself had gone to school only until the age of 10. Franklin founded Pennsylvania's first college in Philadelphia. It became the University of Pennsylvania. Only 3 other American colleges are older. Harvard University in Cambridge, Massachusetts was founded in 1636, and the College of William and Mary in Williamsburg, Virginia was founded in 1693. Yale University in New Haven, Connecticut was founded in 1701. Franklin also helped start a school for African Americans at the end of the 1700s. The Great Awakening, a religious movement begun by Protestants, led the founding of many other new colleges in the colonies. So education started growing in the colonies, or opportunities for people to go to colleges and even hopefully expand rights. Women in the colonies. The wives of wealthy colonial men lived comfortable lives. So if you were rich, things were good. Yet they had many responsibilities too. Franklin had little time for his printing shop because of many other activities. So Deborah Franklin, his wife, ran much of the business. She was also responsible for the Franklin household and their 3 children. Poor women worked hard raising families and helping on the farms. Although colonial women worked hard, they had very few rights except for those allowed by their husbands. To improve their lives by earning their own money, some women started their own businesses. Next page. This is going to be about the frontier. So the land that was not cities, where colonists were slowly moving further and further away from the ocean where the cities were and taking land that was Native American. So they're pushing from east and they're going to start pushing west. And when you look on this map, our country grew in this direction. And as they moved and expanded, they also took away Native Americans' land. From city to frontier. Following a geographical pattern, the first colonies were settled along the Atlantic coastal plain. The land was good for growing crops. The settlements were located near large waterways, so they were ideal for trade. The map above shows where cities like Boston, Philadelphia, and Charlestown were located. By the middle of the 1700s, only the wealthy could afford to own coastal land. So colonists began moving west to the backcountry. The backcountry is the name for the rugged land near the Appalachian Mountains. Geography of the backcountry. The backcountry began in the foothills between the Atlantic coastal plain and the Appalachians, or the Piedmont. The Piedmont stretches across the middle colonies and part of the southern colonies. Rocky land made farming in the backcountry hard. Waterways to transport goods were few, so it was not good for farming. The land was rocky. There was not rivers or the ocean that they could use boats to transport and trade things, so it wasn't good for that. Without waterways, reaching the Piedmont was hard. Colonists followed trails made by Native Americans long ago. One of the most often used trails led to the Shenandoah Valley. Find this valley on the map on page 248. So when you look to the Shenandoah Valley, you can see right in here. And there were mountains here. Settlers of the backcountry. Most people who settled in the backcountry lived a rugged life. Both men and women worked hard to survive. They made houses of rough logs. Many spent most of the day hunting for food. Some of these rugged pioneers became wealthy. The families of the 2 United States presidents were among the first to settle in the backcountry. Of 2 United States presidents. What brought these people to the backcountry? Many of them were poor and wanted a better life. Alexander McAllister, a Scottish immigrant, described the North Carolina backcountry as the best poor man's country in this age. McAllister told relatives that a person might make it rich very fast there and that people could breathe the air of liberty. So basically, I think he's saying that it was a chance for some colonists to have like a fresh start in life, a chance to make their own life as best they could. Final page. Here's the impact on Native Americans. So, the backcountry had long been home to Native Americans. And these Native Americans and the colonists traded goods and often got along well. However, soon problems began to arise. Colonists often captured and enslaved Native Americans. In the Yamasee War of 1715, fighting broke out between the colonists of North Carolina and the Yamasee, Muskogee, and the Cherokee. Because the Cherokee switched sides and joined the colonists, Native Americans had to surrender. So there was a mix of things. Native Americans joining the colonists or Native Americans fighting on the British side. It was sort of a mess of people land being taken, homes being taken, and Native Americans were trying to, I guess it's saying, make their life the best they could. And it wasn't a good situation. So here's the little ending, why it matters. Be always employed in something useful, Benjamin Franklin wrote in his autobiography. He lived by these words. Through hard work and intelligence, he became wealthy and was respected throughout the colonies. Franklin's life showed others that there were opportunities in the colonies. However, not everyone had such opportunities. Enslaved people had little opportunity. Poor immigrants had hard lives. But a new country was developing that would one day have opportunities for all. So, here is what we have. Sum it up. People from different lands lived throughout the English colonies. So we read about all the different countries where people were immigrating from. Benjamin Franklin in 1723, Philadelphia. He helped the city in many different ways. And then many colonists started moving west to the frontier in the Appalachian Mountain area. Okay, that's it. You're going to be going back to your doc, obviously, and putting in notes. And in the end, your paragraph has two choices.